Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the GCH Team live stream. We're excited to have you here. We thought we would go over what the market is doing between Georgia and South Carolina. We got everybody in the house except Atlanta. Altaviz is on vacation this week. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everybody. I'm Karen Carr. I'm in Savannah. Nicole Moore, also in Savannah, Kimberly Lahadney representing Augusta, and Holly Meckley representing the Bluffton area of South Carolina. So, hey, everybody, come on and say hello.
We're all on mute.
All of you were muted. You're being so nice and polite by muting yourself. And those of you that are joining us live, feel free to comment and say hello. Tell us where you're tuning in from and which of these areas you are interested in if you're thinking about making a change and relocating. So before we get started, we have very, very exciting, important news to discuss. Nicole, I will let you do the honors.
Woo! Okay. So the big announcement is that Costco is finally here in Pooler. Woo!
So they have no idea how excited that makes me. Like when I lived in California, I had a Costco probably less than a mile from my house, and we were there all the time. And we used to jokingly call it the $100 store because as soon as you walk in the front door, just prepare that you're going to spend $100, even if you only went in to buy toilet paper. And that was, many, many years ago. So now with inflation, it's probably the $200 store. And I have not lived near a Costco for quite some time, just Sam's Club, which is fine. But, I have a fond place in my heart for Costco. And you had done a video about it a long time ago.
I did. I did a video maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, and I got some pretty mean comments on the video. People saying, "You're a liar. It's not coming." So here it is, guys. Finally, it's here.
That was so funny. I remember that you made this video and it got a lot of views, and you started getting recognized when you went out in public. You'd go to Walmart and people are like, "Hey, you're that lady that made the video about Costco." And then a year goes by and nothing. It's still just a dirt field. And people, started calling you out in the comments saying that you had fabricated the whole thing. That's like, it takes a long time to
it does.
get approval and pull permits.
Well, and now, I mean, even it was supposed to be completed. I think I did an updated video and I told everybody that it was going to be completed next year in the summertime. So surprise, it's done early for you guys.
And they banged it out so quickly. I mean, over the summer, they still hadn't even broken ground. I drove by it at the beginning of October and it was framed, but it didn't have walls. It didn't have electricity. I can't believe how quickly they made it all come together. So we are definitely going to be going down there today, braving the crowds, and maybe I'll do a little video while I'm down there. Kimberly, thank you for joining us because I know you're at a home inspection. So appreciate it. How's it going so far?
It's going well. So this is one of my first listings in the Evans, Augusta area, and I have been overjoyed. It's sold in an hour, guys. In an hour.
Crazy. And I remember when you first got this listing, we were talking about your whole marketing strategy and were you going to, modernize it and fix it up and all this kind of stuff. And in the end, what did you end up doing?
So the only thing I did is I paid for a stager to come in and give me some advice because this was an incredibly beautiful custom home, but it was a little dated. And so we wanted to just do some things that would make it just step it up a little bit. We did remove some wallpaper and paint the front hall. But other than that, we really didn't do anything else. And I mean, it was crazy. And I can't say that that's across the board market-wise what's happening in our area because at some of the higher price points, sales have slowed a little bit. But also we're the week before Thanksgiving. So that's also why we're seeing a little bit of a little slowdown. But I mean, to put a sign in the yard and literally have to take it down like 45 minutes later was ridiculous.
So how long was the house on the market before and how many people came to see it? Like you say it sold in an hour. How many people saw it in that first hour?
Only one listing.
Oh, wow.
Showing. So what happened was we were tracking it. We put it on the MLS I think we put it on at like 9:30 the night before. And when I went to go out to this listing, my husband was tracking the numbers. He's like, 45 people have favorited it. And that was at 9 a.m. the next morning. 9 a.m. to 9:30, the first person that came in said, please take this off the market. Like, we're ready to give you a full price offer and then some. And I was like, okay, well, let me call my seller because I'm not sure, like, we want to take the very first offer. But I knew the agent. She's amazing. She's very straightforward. I knew that the offer that she had in hand was a solid one. So they did decide to take it. I don't know what would have happened if we had let the house stay open all day long. This was
Yeah.
also a seller that did not really want to have his house open at all. So we would have probably kept the house open all day if it was a different situation. We would have waited until the weekend to even review
Okay.
offers. But he was like, no, as they come in, if they're solid, I want to know about them. So that's what happened.
That's very cool. Well, congratulations. So exciting. And hopefully all will go well with your home inspection. So, Holly, you specialize in the Bluffton area of Carolina, which is, for those of you not super familiar with the area, if you're in Savannah, you go across the bridge. The first one you come to is Bluffton. And then if you keep going over the next bridge, then you're on Hilton Head. So, Bluffton is quite a bit more affordable than Hilton Head because it's not right on an island on the ocean. And you specialize in a 55 and over community called Sun City. So, what are you seeing with demand and how quickly houses are selling where you are?
Well, it's not quite as crazy as it used to be. So instead of everything going the first 10 hours on the market, I see it going like 4 or 5 days. So instead of having 15 offers on a property right away, we only have maybe 2. But as far as, what they're offering still and what they're accepting is not a lot of contingencies are being accepted. And we're pretty much getting what the list price is. So if, the list for 425, we're getting 425. And I'm not seeing that crazy, let's bid 450 and make sure we get it, or 480. So pretty much whatever they're listing for is what they're going for. I've seen a few problems with appraisals, so we're not making contracts contingent upon the appraisal, but that's the only negative that I can see. But yeah, it's a good market and things are still flying. And what's happening is a lot of people still buying houses here without actually seeing them. So they're coming from New York and New Jersey and Michigan, and they're not even bothering to come. They're looking at houses online, or the agents are taking them through with a video, and they're buying the house sight unseen, and they don't really see it until they get here to closing. So that's still kind of crazy to me, but that's just the way things are going here.
And that's something that we have always really done because we deal with so many people that are relocating here from out of the area, is that if they decide they're willing to buy the house sight unseen, we will go to the property and take a really thorough video to send them, because we know that photos are deceiving. When people take their photos, and they put them on Zillow and Realtor.com and Redfin and all the portals, of course, they're trying to make the house look as beautiful as possible because that's their job. The agent is trying to represent the house in the best possible light so that their seller gets the best offer. But is that always realistic for the people who are buying it? So a video, like a candid video, really, really helps, especially, you can't smell things in a photo, right? And when we go into the house, it's like, woo, they got some cats in this house. That's something that a buyer would probably want to know.
Yeah.
Well, and here in the Savannah market, I feel like listing agents are very strict, because if I go take a video of a sight unseen, or for a client who's relocating, and the seller has a Ring doorbell and they see that I'm the only person that went into the property, the listing agent will question me and say, did your buyer physically see it in person? And I've had clients lose out on offers because they were not physically present. Even if their offer was absolutely amazing, the listing agents here in the Savannah market are like, no way, if you didn't see it in person, we're not going to accept your offer.
That's very interesting. Are any of the others of you seeing that same thing? Kimberly, yeah?
I've had one couple, it's a gentleman and his son in town, who really wanted to know if our clients had entered the building. And it was it was disconcerting. Luckily, that was not the house they ended up putting an offer in on, and we're under contract on another house, which was great. But I felt very uncomfortable. I felt tempted to fib, honestly, and I did not. But it was very frustrating, because it was like, they're physically with me. Like, in one case I was taking a video, and the other case I was FaceTiming them, but they were not physically in the building. So, I mean, I get it. I would have the same mind if I wasn't working with our team. I'd be very concerned that an agent wasn't really pointing out absolutely everything to a client. And they do have a lot of people coming into town ghosting them, right? They're getting offers, and the minute something goes wrong, they're using that due diligence period to just back out really fast. And so there is a lot of there's hesitation with a lot of listing agents that if somebody hasn't seen the property, that they just don't even want to risk it. They want to get this thing gone, and they don't want someone to walk into the house and have issues later.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing is the same thing that you just talked about. The listing agents are concerned about buyers making offers just because there's low inventory and they're just trying to get something under contract. And then if a better property pops up that they like better, then they end up canceling that one and going with a different property because really they have no ties to it and they're, not in the area, so they don't physically see it. So it's kind of less skin in the game for the buyer basically, and the seller has to take that risk.
And while I understand the listing agent having that point of view, we have due diligence, and every single buyer, whether they are physically in town or not, can wake up one morning and say, it's raining today, I don't want to buy a house. And they would be able to back out of that contract. So I feel like they're using that a little bit as an excuse because they're probably getting multiple offers and they're trying to make their job easier and weed it down to what are the absolute best ones. So Nicole, I know that you are, you have a lot of success winning on multiple offers. So is there anything that you specifically do to help your clients win in that situation if the listing agent is aware that they haven't physically been in the property yet? So
when they ask me, has the buyer seen the property, and I've done a thorough video, FaceTime, I tell them yes, that they've seen it. I'm not like, yes, they physically walked in. And like I said, sometimes they have a Ring doorbell and they literally see me just by myself walking in. So I just tell them that, yes, they saw the property. Like, it wasn't like they just saw it, the pictures on the MLS and made an offer. So that's how I usually go about it. And, real estate is a very tricky thing right now. I mean, it's always interesting, but listing agents don't tell you how many offers, what type of offers they're getting. And then we also don't, tell every single thing about our buyer that could harm them being able to win an offer situation. So, it's kind of give and take, and you have to be strategic about what you share and then also the information that you're receiving. So that's basically how I go about it. I'm like, yes, they saw the property, and that leave it at that, basically.
Nice. So we just got a comment from Josh. Josh, I have to tell you something. I have a friend in the Virginia, DC area named Josh Keaton, who has helped me in the past with our website. And I thought that this was him. And I sent him a message after you filled out a form on our website and was like, dude, why are you downloading stuff from my website? And he said, I'm not. And I'm like, yes, you did. I just think it's funny that you guys have the same name. So thanks for joining us today. I'm glad that you are here. What about you, Holly? Are you seeing that sort of pushback where you are in Bluffton?
No, not really. I mean, because we have so many people that do it that way here. And another kind of weird thing that we're seeing is agents are soliciting on social media saying, I have a buyer that needs whatever criteria. And sellers are calling them up and they're doing the transaction without actually putting the listing in MLS. So that's a kind of weird thing that's happening here. But no, I'm not seeing any pushback on the video or has your client seen the house. They're just kind of accepting the offer. If it's a good offer, they'll take it.
Okay, good. And honestly, I kind of feel like that resistance is from, how shall we say it nicely, some of the more seasoned old school agents who are not especially tech savvy, and they really don't understand how well a video will show the inside of the property. Like, I can literally go over to the pantry and open the door and show them the inside of the pantry. There's not much that you can't see in a video except for the smell, right? Or feeling. I did a house in Savannah that was a very, very old house and had been renovated, but the floor sloped a little bit. The floor was not absolutely 100% level. And so as I'm walking through the house, I said, I feel it. It's not terribly disconcerting, but it is noticeable. So you just need to be aware. Now it's only a foot off of the ground. It's not like it's got a full basement underneath it. I'm not worried that the floor is going to cave in. It doesn't feel that significant, but that is something to be aware of. And that's something that you want to let your clients know in the initial video, because they need to know that prior to writing the offer. And that's another thing that I would say to these listing agents is, listen, I'm not going to falsify the condition of the house to get them to write an offer. And then when we do the home inspection, give them all these reasons to back out. Like, why would I do that? I want to paint a realistic picture to the client of what the house really looks like, because once we're under contract, I don't want them to back out either.
Yep.
Cool. Kimberly, you have anything to chime in about the Augusta area?
It's really loud over here, but I will tell you, I want to say something about our clients. Our clients are so well behaved. They are not doing some of these things that we're seeing in the market. So that's something that I'd like to just shout out and say, thank you for not asking us to write multiple offers on homes you haven't seen, just as you see them popping up on the MLS or on Zillow. All my clients have allowed me to take the time to go actually see the properties for them if they are not physically in the area. I think also, I mean, we've seen inflation in our area, so definitely the price point of a 3.2 in the area is really getting much closer to 300,000, especially in the Evans Martinez area. And then different places in Augusta, if the houses are custom or if they're fixed up in any way, you're going to get closer to 4s and 5s. It's kind of shocking. So a lot of people are having sticker shock right now because they price pointed themselves. They've watched our videos for a long time and they've had their price point on a lower spectrum, and they get into town and they're ready to buy and they're not getting as much house where they thought they would buy. Now they are finding some really amazing deals in North Augusta and in Aiken on the South Carolina side. And luckily I'm licensed in both states. So we've been able to find really nice houses just over the border if they want to do that instead.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when I first relocated to Savannah myself many years ago, I was kind of shocked at how inexpensive it was, having come from California, which was insane, right? And so when I moved to California, I had major sticker shock. Major. I'm like, I'm sorry, $500,000 for a starter home that needs a complete renovation. Are you insane? Then when I came back this direction, it was completely the opposite. It was like, geez, I could put it on a credit card. It's so cheap. But since the beginning of COVID, our median home price in the Savannah market has gone up almost $100,000. In fact, it might even be over 100,000 at this point. So Holly, what about you? What has the price point done in the Bluffton area?
Yes, actually, it's gone up at least like 24%, like you said. So,
Wow.
and you know, the sticker shock that you're talking about, since we have so many people coming from the California market or the New York market, they really don't have a sticker shock. They don't care that they pay that amount of money for that house because it's so much less expensive than where they're coming from. The taxes are so much less expensive where they're coming from, and that they just don't care. So the only really kickback that I'm getting is local people that are trying to get into the market here that are having the problem.
Very true. And I'm also getting the issue of, if somebody has a house to sell, they want to find the replacement house first, because they know that as soon as they list their house for sale, it's going to sell in an hour, like Kimberly just said. And they don't want to be homeless, and they don't want to have to live in a home 2 suites for 3 months between selling the existing house and finding the new house. But that presents its own challenge, right? Because sellers don't want to take a contingent offer. They don't want to take your offer knowing that you have to sell their first house in order to be able to buy this one. So Nicole, you got any tips for writing offers when you're in that position?
So I recommend to almost all my clients that have to sell their house to sell their house before they go and start searching, because I have literally written like 10 offers for one client that had a contingency to sell their house. And what happens is that a lot of our buyers, they see these new listings pop up, and the listing agents here, they strategically put the listing on the market on Thursday. They let it go the whole entire weekend, and then they review offers Monday and make a decision Monday afternoon or Tuesday. So my clients get so excited. They're like, oh my gosh, this new listing popped up. I love it so much. They send me all these listings. And I know some of the neighborhoods that are going to get I'm talking like 15 to 30 offers on that property. And my clients will not have any type of fighting chance with a contingency to sell their house. So I either tell them, you need to sell your property. And some of them, luckily, they can go live with family, or they're willing to sacrifice living in an extended stay or a month-to-month rental until they find the right property. Or the other thing that I recommend, which is always not the favorite thing, is that you don't focus on the new listings. You focus on a property that may be on the market longer than 72 hours, maybe 4 or 5 days, and there's not multiple offers on it. Let's go for those properties instead of going for the brand new listings, because those new ones, there's no way to tell that if they're going to get multiple offers or not. And most of the time I know which ones are going to, and we literally are just spinning our wheels in mud looking at, oh my gosh, this brand new property popped up. I have to this is the perfect house. It is the perfect house, but you are not going to win an offer. And that's just that's just the reality of it right now. And I hate being so blunt to people, but we will literally waste so much time going and looking at all these properties and writing offers after offer after offer and not getting accepted.
I 100% agree. And I mean, I have so many stories where we were the winners for exactly that situation. A rental property that I bought had been on the market for 3 or 4 months, and it had fallen in and out of contract multiple times. So I'm thinking, what is wrong with this property? It must have a really bad problem. It just had a cloud on the title. And so we wrote our offer, and I said, I'm willing to wait until you clear it. I'm not in a big hurry. And we got the house. We got a 3-bedroom house for less than $100,000. Now, this was several years ago. Don't get your hopes up, people. Then I have a client recently. In fact, so this drawing on the top of my bookshelf back there, my client was an artist who got a job as a professor at the local art college. And he drew that for me as a closing gift. It was so amazing. And the reason we got that house, which was a wonderful house, was because it was tenant occupied and the tenants were not allowing people to come in. And I basically would not take no for an answer. And I blew up that listing agent's phone until finally she was like, dear God, please stop calling. Okay, fine. Come and see the house. As far as I know, we were the only people to set foot in the house, and we wrote an offer on it. Because it's like, you know what? We've got to take whatever advantage we can get. If you can find a house, like you said, that's been on the market for several weeks, Kimberly, you got an offer. It had been on the market for like 6 weeks at that point. Was it the one with the deck or the lack of deck on the back of the house? It had been on the market for quite some time. And so when the buyer comes along, at that point, the seller's like, oh, thank goodness, somebody is finally writing an offer on our house. It's so much more likely that you're going to get it than to look on the one that came on the market last night, like you said, and it's going to have 10 multiple offers. So to sum that all up, it means that you may not get the perfect house, but are you willing to paint it? Are you willing to do a little bit of landscaping? In Kimberly's case, are you willing to put a deck on that was removed off the back of the house? If everything else about the house is perfect, that could be the difference between you getting the house and you having to write 20 offers before you finally get the house.
Yeah. And I would add to that I completely agree with everything that was just said. There are a lot of houses sitting on the market that have land, that are a little dated, that have some of the other things that I know deep down, some of you who are watching, you really want. But you're like, oh, but I want turnkey. Well, what is turnkey for you? Can you sleep there for a couple nights and get, like this gentleman is having people come in to do a paint evaluation and some construction estimates. I mean, it is what it is. This is a custom house, but it's a little dated inside, but it's an absolutely gorgeous, well-built house. So I think that that's really valid. I would also want to pitch that I don't know, I can't speak for the other portions of our team, but I have a lender that helps first-time home buyers buy with cash, or contingency buyers buy with cash. There are lender opportunities. You should ask agents if they have multiple lenders you can talk to and see if there are programs or situations that would put you in a better situation to either buy with cash or to buy without contingency. That is something that is happening, but you need to know the facts and all the information behind it. And really, that's a lender conversation.
I'm so glad you brought that up because yes, I know that this one particular resource that we have, I don't know if they operate in South Carolina yet, but they do operate in Georgia. And basically, you apply for a loan with them, they will give you cash so that you can write a cash offer on the house. And then you refinance it and you pay back the lender who loaned you the money to buy the house with cash. So if you are not able to compete because you're a VA buyer, for example, and you're up against people that are just going to pay cash and say, I'll buy it in 2 weeks and I'm not going to ask for any repairs, and you're a VA buyer where the house has to be safe, sound, and secure, you can't just offer any amount of money, no matter how ridiculous it is, because there will be an appraisal that is done and the bank's going to say, well, it has to be worth what you're willing to pay for the house. Let's say that you do this cash offer instead, and you're still getting a loan on the house. And we can explain to you exactly how this all works, but it makes your offer much more competitive. So if you're getting a little bit discouraged, like I keep writing offer after offer and they're not getting accepted, what can I do to be more competitive? If you're buying in the state of Georgia, this is a really amazing program. And Holly, if you're aware of anything that would work in South Carolina as well, we should absolutely be having those conversations with you. So as always, just ask us. That's what we're here for. Natalia, thank you for joining, my dear. This is Natalia Echeverry. She is a realtor in Florida. Very cool. I'm glad to hear that that is happening down there as well. And any of you that might be thinking about moving, but not to Georgia or South Carolina, as always, reach out to us. We can certainly put you in touch with amazing agents like Natalia who are in other areas of the world. Luckily, we have a very big network. The Georgia Coast Homes team has a huge network of real estate agents in Canada and all over the US. And no matter where you decide you're going to end up going, we can usually have somebody there that we can put you in touch with. All right. In closing, any last tidbits, words of wisdom, nuggets of information that you guys can share to help people get their offers accepted when it is clearly a hot seller's market?
So in the Savannah market, it is still crazy here. I think it's gotten even crazier. So I know Holly said that hers might have slowed down a little bit. I have seen the opposite here. Lower inventory, supply and demand. So prices are going up. There's more people that are looking for houses. It's the holiday season. So maybe it might not be the right time to buy for you because you're looking for more options. There's probably going to be more opportunity at the beginning of the year. Not saying that you won't find something, you might, but as far as offers, I always tell my clients the things that we need to focus on are purchase price, earnest money. The higher the earnest money, it looks like the more of a risk you're taking, but still I've had people lose out even when they put $20,000 in earnest money. Contingencies, the fewer contingencies, the better. So contingencies, that would be the due diligence period, how long that is. Right now, listing agents are preferring 5 to 7 days over the average, which was 10 to 14 before. Your contingency of your loan, do you have an appraisal? What type of loan it is? Are you using a local lender? That's a huge thing here. If you're not using a local lender, a lot of listing agents will advise their sellers not to go with someone who's not using a local lender. The sight unseen thing we talked about. Closing costs, I'm telling you, if you're in a multiple offer situation, if you ask for closing costs, that is a deal killer. Like 100%, most of the time it's a deal killer. And that's kind of the things that we advise our clients on. We look at market comps. We try to, figure out how many offers they have on the table to make our offer strategic, but you just never know with what property. And the best thing that I can tell you advice is get someone who is very familiar with what they're doing and is an expert at what they're doing, which is our team in all the areas that we service. But you want someone on your side that's going to fight for you for sure.
Nicole, one of the things I love most about you is that you just don't pull any punches. You call a spade, and you're like, asking for closing costs is a deal killer. I'm really glad that you say that because we don't necessarily want to hear the truth, but sometimes, you need to be told what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And if that means if you decide you want to buy a house, but you have no money in savings, then this is probably not the right market for you to consider buying your first house. You need to save up some money. You need to be able to pay your own closing costs. If you're doing a VA loan, you're going to have 0 down. If you're doing an FHA loan, you're going to have 3.5% down, but you also need to be prepared to spend the money for your own closing costs. If the seller will agree, that's great, but you got to be in the position to be able to do it yourself. And if that means you have to wait 6 months and save up some more money, then so be it, because better to have the money and get the house that you want than write 20 offers and just pull your hair out and be so frustrated that you throw up your hands and say, forget it. I'm just going to continue to rent. Holly, what about you? Any last words of wisdom?
Well, I agree with everything Nicole said, except, cash deals are king. Everyone is really vying for those cash offers, and no appraisal contingencies. So those are the 2 big items in this area.
Awesome. Kimberly, how about you?
I would agree. I also concur with everything that Nicole said. We still have a pretty hot market. Things are going very fast. There's the very high end of our market, so 5 and up, really 600,000 and up is moving a little slower, but we're still seeing those units move. They just sit on the market, usually traditionally a little longer anyway, but we're still seeing them move pretty quickly. I would agree that you're going to be paying closing costs. I've still had a lot of clients want to negotiate that, and they did not get the house, just like Nicole said. So you have to be prepared. And that's a sticker shock too. I mean, like in some cases, it's almost $10,000 that you need to know that you're bringing additional to the table. Yeah, I mean, I would also encourage you that the information on this particular live stream is really valid and timely. And if you missed anything, go back and watch it again, because this has been really good. But I would also say that we will be able to find you your house. Like, be encouraged.
Absolutely.
Whether it's right now or a little bit later, your house is out there. And I don't want anyone to walk away from this live stream thinking, well, gosh, I'm going to have to settle for, a rundown clunker of a house. Absolutely not. And we will not let you buy that. I mean, so many of our clients come in and they're like, Kimberly, I trust your eyes. Please walk in and tell me, would you buy this house? We will not. I can only speak for myself, but I think it's true of our whole team. We're not going to let you buy a crap house. We are not.
Absolutely.
So we will make sure that you get here safely, and you buy something that you really love.
Yep. I think all of us have had major moves in our lives. All of us on this team, all of us have moved across state lines, across country lines. We know what it's like to arrive in a brand new location where you know nothing about where you're going and rely on somebody else to give you accurate advice about where to live and what these houses look like. I know that when I moved to Bluffton, we rented a house sight unseen. And thank goodness my dad went and looked at it for me. And I said, would you feel good if we rent this house and we live here? Like, knowing your grandkids are going to live in this house. And he said, yes, of course. So having somebody else be your eyes and ears on the ground is incredibly valuable, just like you said, Kimberly. One last thing, just in case anybody is not completely familiar with what this means. Several of you have said waiving the appraisal contingency. Kimberly, what exactly does that mean?
So, well, at least in our area, you can't technically waive the appraisal contingency, but you can say, if the house does not appraise, then we are willing to spend up to a certain amount over the appraised value to meet the need. Or you might say, we're willing to meet that need. So in the case of a buyer, we had a buyer who could put 50% down on his down payment. He put an offer on a house that he went crazy. He was like, we're going to put this offer on. I was like, that's way above asking. And he's like, that's okay. We're going to get it. It was a multiple offer situation. We got the house. And he said, I'm willing to put X amount of dollars towards the house if it does not appraise. The interesting thing that's happening in our area, and I don't know if it's happening anywhere else, but very few lenders, we've been getting, at least with my lender, they're waiving the appraisal altogether. the houses have just increased in price that much that they're like this, we're seeing a huge influx in house prices, and the appraisal at this value, or the value of the house is going to stand, and the appraiser does not think that an appraisal needs to be done. So that was pretty.
So they don't even do the appraisal at all?
Mm-mm.
And that is the lender's choice?
What?
That's the lender's choice?
The lender and the appraiser's choice, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, so I bet the buyers are very happy because now they don't have to spend $450, $500 on an appraisal.
Yes, and there's a huge relief, right? Because what if it didn't appraise? We'll have to still ante up that cash at closing. And that's really back to Karen's point earlier, that if you don't have enough in savings, if you're not really ready, even if you are doing a specialty loan, like she said, this may not be the right time to buy, because really a lot of cash on hand, extra cash just available just in case, is really a powerful place to be, even if you're buying something. Even if you're downsizing and you're coming from California where you sold your house for a crazy amount and you're buying like a $300,000 house, and this is wonderful, that puts you in a very strong position that whatever happens, if it doesn't appraise or whatever, you can ante up the cash to cover the loss on either side.
And it makes you feel a little bit like, oh, I'm getting gypped. But at the same time, when you wrote the offer, you were willing to pay that price because you felt that the house was worth it. Now the appraiser comes along and says, well, I disagree. I don't think it's worth that same amount of money. And if the seller says, well, I'm not going to reduce the sales price, you made the offer, you were willing to pay this. Are you in a position where you can just pay the difference in cash? And I will tell you, sorry, frog in my throat. I will tell you that that's exactly what happened to me when we bought our house a year ago. The appraisal came in low. And while we felt like we had no leverage because it was such a hot seller's market that basically we had to do everything that the seller wanted in order to get that house, the reality is we got the house and we were happy to pay that price at the time when we wrote the offer. We ended up getting everything that we wanted in the property, knowing that we would have to do a little bit of modernization and updating because it was built in the 80s, and we were okay with it. So yes, if you're in a position where cash is very, very limited, and if you were to write the offer and the offer got accepted and it did not appraise, and there's no way you could pay the difference, then maybe it just means you wait a little bit longer. You pay off some debts, you save a little bit more money. There's no shame in having to wait a little bit because you want to be financially stable when you're buying a house. And like you guys have all said, cash is king. And in this market, that's really what it's taking to be competitive. So if you need to wait just a little bit longer, that's okay.
Well, and here in just really quickly, the Savannah market, all those parts that I had talked about, the offers, they all play a factor into coming together for a great offer. Like there's not one thing that's more attractive than the other. And I've actually had buyers who offer $20,000 over, they're willing to pay an appraisal gap. They still don't win because there's 17 offers. Or I've had buyers where they have cash and they offer at the list price with cash, a 15-day escrow. They're going to close at the end of the month. They have a very short due diligence. They still lose because there's a better offer on the table. So even if you have cash, don't think that you're still going to win, because sometimes you don't. And I have buyers that offer overpriced and they have cash and they still don't win. You're on mute, Karen.
Thank you. I was trying to clear my throat again and I muted myself. That's a really good point. It's not any one thing that makes your offer the strongest. It's the combination of all of the things. And that's why you hire a great realtor to represent you in the transaction. Can I get an amen? All right. Well, with that, thank you so much, ladies. It was great to all get together and do a live stream. We're planning on making this a regular occurrence. And thank you to all of those people that are subscribing to our channel. The next time we decide to do another market update talking about our different areas, we're going to schedule it and you'll be notified as long as you are subscribing to our channel. So hit the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. As always, thank you. And it's so important that you live where you love and love where you live. Take care, everybody. Bye.